a new video or a new feature or, whatever.
Something like that, you think?
Yeah.
Those are all good ideas. Anybody have anything else they'd like to maybe try to add to that? Okay.
What about maybe, this is Jason Rugg here, what about maybe like a mobile app or something, an SDS mobile app? Everybody's glued to their phones anyways. That'd be a good way to get information out there.
Glad you brought that up. Because I've been begging Trevor for an iPhone app for years for that. Let me add that to the list.
I mean, yeah, it could have topics of interest on there, a calendar, whatever. But I know, at least for me, the last thing I want is another email to look at or to have to filter out somehow.
Good?
Yep.
Anything else I should add to that, or did I capture that correctly, you think?
Yeah, I think that'll work.
See, we have a chat message. Jim Burns and Mac over in Houston. I'd like to suggest the idea of a white paper or a technical article. Okay. Okay. Anything else on this topic before we move on to the next?
Along the issue of like a white paper or a technical article, what about like a not really a blog, but like a webinar? Would it be beneficial to do it like a you know, a webinar? I see like T&D World does them all the time, or something like that, where we could do a webinar type thing where you could do a couple, you know, maybe a 30-minute over lunch. Hey, here's all this cool stuff that the SD tools can do, type thing.
I've sat through a lot of lunch and learns, so it'd be along that same line. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. You could probably capture a much bigger audience. I think something like that would probably have to be marketed to some extent, though. I don't know what medium you'd want to go about marketing that, but it could drive a lot more interest to the site and to the tools itself.
Capture that well, you think?
I think so, yeah.
Thank you. That's a lot of good ideas. Josh and I have been racking our brains trying to come up with some ideas. So the best one we came up with was to try to open it up to you guys and see what you guys thought. So you definitely thought outside the box that Josh and I put ourselves in. Appreciate it. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to offer up on this, or should we go ahead and move on to the next topic?
Do you think it's, I don't know if this would come from consortium money or this would be like SDS doing it, but any type of like direct marketing like campaign, like, hey, put it in T&D World or another magazine or some type of publication, whether it be a virtual or a hard copy thing, that could drive people to this site to check out tools and discussions?
I know that the Leadership Council has been talking about getting an article published in T&D World. I think if SDS was to do it, it'd be more along the lines of, you know, here's toolkits, things like that. But no, that's a good idea. I'd like to explore that a little further, even.
And it would probably, from my perspective, it would probably come across better or be more well received if it was coming from a utility and not like SBS itself. It might come off like, here's what we're doing, right? Instead of here's what you can do. It shows more somebody's actually doing it and how they're implementing it.
Good?
Yep.
Cool. Thank you. It's a good idea, too. I definitely want to follow back up with the leadership on that one and see where we did get with any of that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things with that is there's a lot of utilities that are like overwhelmed, right? And they think it's this massive jump, and if you can kind of say the consortium's here to help, and it's a bunch of people that have already done it, that might help overcome some of that fear that other utilities may have of taking the leap.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also writing down some notes to the side. Okay. Any other thoughts on this? We did come up with quite a few really good ones, so we're going to dig into those a little bit later on. See how much movement we can get with it. All right, move on to the next one. The next one's a really quick and easy one. So upcoming spring face-to-face meeting hosted by Ameren, hope I spelled that right, in St. Louis, Missouri, April 3rd through the 7th. Travel days are April 3rd and 7th. April 3rd afternoon is going to be a get to know inventors info session. We don't have all the details panned out on that. In fact, Steve and Terry, I need to follow up with you two. Possibly, do you have time right after this meeting to discuss that?
Yes, I do.
Steve Kaufman, do you have time after this to discuss that?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
All right. I'll throw a quick meeting together and we'll hop on there. Okay. Do we have any questions about the upcoming spring face-to-face meeting?
Has everyone received a registration, SurveyMonkey registration form?
Oh, I have.
I don't think I have.
I haven't.
Okay. All right. It is on the website, but you should have received something. I'll go ahead and send out the flyer to the membership just as an email blast, just so to make sure that y'all get it.
Yeah, if you go to the home page on the website, it's right there under upcoming events. You can just click on that. And then there's all the information you need. And it's got the hotel location of their facilities. Here's the accommodations, airport options, car rental needs, reception, sponsored by Autodesk, and then a really high-level agenda. And then this would be the, like we were talking about, we're going to actually do the afternoon session, the get to know inventor session. They're also going to do one for electrical and toolkits. I think Vault is supposed to be involved, but only for, the specific disciplines. So these are going to be broken up into two different groups. So you'll have inventor and electrical. Any more questions on that? Okay. I'm sorry, did I cut somebody off? All right. So discussion topics to revisit from our previous meeting. We had Bill Gordon do that demo discussion 2 meetings ago. The video is on the YouTube site. Has anybody had a chance to go back and look at that video or have any more feedback as far as that video is concerned when it comes to the SD toolkit updates or any new feedback from that video of that demo? Okay. Again, in case you don't know, the YouTube site is right here. If you want to get to it and you don't want to remember the name of it, you can go to our group and it's right there. And you just click on that and it'll take you right to the YouTube site and you can subscribe and get updates. Looks like we have 8 people subscribing. One of the things I also wanted to point out, the January meeting is up and live, so you can go back and review our January meeting. And Steve Kaufman has posted a how-to video on the YouTube site as well. That's the wrong thing. So that was right here, the SDS library fitting preparation. That's a good video to go check out. Again, so we've got the January meeting, December meeting, and November meetings up there. And then shortly after we get off of this call, I'll be uploading the February meeting up there, even though we're missing the first 5 or 10 minutes. Do we have any questions on that? Okay, so if you want to post a tip, trick, how-to video or any kind of video to the site, just send it to myself, Jeremy, and Josh, and we will get it uploaded as quickly as possible, especially for you best practice document folks. It goes a long way to have a video you can link to, and that's pretty much where we're going to house any of the videos that you want to link back to from your documentation. So next, we have updated toolkits. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve Kaufman for a demo and discussion of the new update. So are you ready, Steve?
Yes, I am, Jeremy.
All right, go ahead and make you the presenter.
I want to apologize to you guys. I didn't know my flooring was going to come at this time. They were supposed to be here earlier, so I'm getting a small amount of flooring done in my upstairs. And if there's noises of saws and that, if it's too loud, make sure you tell me. I'll tell them to quiet down. So as you all know, that there's a new SDS version for the physical side here. And what you're seeing on the screen is typically my demo station. I think Terry would recognize it well. So what I'm going to go through is a couple of things that have changed. The first thing I want to talk about is I mentioned it earlier, the SDS website. We have a lot of more help available. And if you come in here, you can go in SDSB 7. Here's the older help files, but this is more specific to the newest version. And you come in here, and I've updated a number of the pages here, and some of the pages are the same as the old ones, and you can save as and download them. So there's a number of items in here. When you get into the above grade tools, we can go right into a place of fitting. So for you guys beginning here, it's a good way to watch a video right away on how to do some aspects. In here as well as a lot of other documentation, and it's all downloadable as well. You can come in here and save as and bring it in. So I just want to stress that point. You need a login to get this as well. So let's look at the updates in substation design. One of the first updates, I made a list of things to show, and one of the first ones I want to show is, if I'm not loud enough, you guys tell me. One of the first updates I want to show is because there's some menu changes to the SDS, there is a tool to update to the new version, your current menu. So if you have your database and you've customized it, you may want to run this to update your old database to the new database format. There's not much changes, but there are some changes. So first thing that we have in the changes to V7 is the settings. So I'm going to go through settings of each page, and there's some changes in each page for the settings. So as always, on the first settings in the application settings, there's change default templates. We have to have templates in here. A lot of people forget to put their templates in here, so you need to have your template set. But what's new here is the default folders. So now we're able to have default folders and say all my cables are going to go in this location. And you can change this, customize it to however you wish. It still needs to be within the Inventor project file, but otherwise you can change the name of the file or the, not the file, the folder, and where you're placing things. So you can see how I've changed mine. All my cables are going to cables, trench is going to trench, conduit's going to conduit. Often I like the default as well, depending on what I'm working on, so I will change this periodically as if I'm working on a subassembly island or the general arrangement type of thing. So that's the first thing I want to hit. The other thing, if we come into the next settings, and we come into settings for the above grade tools, what has changed in here is we can sort the cable list. Now, a lot of people have a lot of cables, and here's the standard out of the toolbox number of cables. But we don't have to sort by name now. We can sort by title, and then we get a different list here. Or we can sort by stock number or part number, right? Then our list looks different as well. So that helps our selection a great deal. And this sorting also is the same sorting then you get in the edit cable tools. If I go to edit a cable, I should see the same sorting here. Is that too loud, guys? Should I tell them to quiet down?
That's fine for me.
All right. Okay, so settings on the above grade, settings on the below grade has changed as well. We have now available to specifically have a list of cables for below grade. That's the main one here. We also have in conduit, this is my pet peeve. It was always that it never stayed ungrounded. I want all my conduit grounded, and that's what I go by, and would always revert to none. So now it always goes to grounded. Slowly what came out, and you may have seen this previously, but we now can come into preform selections, and we can customize our database to have certain types of family of purchased trenching. So that was out a couple releases ago, but now it's formally out now. So I'll even show some of that if we have time today to do that. So that's the three things changed in the below grade settings. So what happened as well is in the new version, design checks, some of what we were showing in the design checks have been moved. It's a cleaner page now. Some of the items were moved over to the SDS Enterprise Suite. So that's why this looks a little different now, and it has the three main checks in here now. The results page has also changed. It will show a check mark if something passed or failed. And if we have time, we can run that as well, and I'll show you that. Again, with previous versions slowly coming out, we have the bus design tool. If you're logged into the website, we can come directly into doing our bus design for the IEEE, as well as the Corona calcs as well. So that was in some earlier versions, but slowly coming out. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of this is here now. So first thing I want to show you a couple neat things with the above grade tools is that there's a number of people were wanting something along this line. So this is my training assembly, and I come into my bay assembly. If you follow the substation modeling strategy, this is made on that same theme. So the bay is in its own assembly. And I'm going to open the bay. So I have it all in one assembly. And now what I want to do is, let's say I have a change in elevation. So you can see I have some cables here. I don't know how well you can see it with the GoToMeeting, but I have some cables here. And what I'm going to do is change some elevations. So I have this could be a template. This could be a template in Vault, or however you guys are managing your files. Let's say this guy changes a height of, give me something here. I'm going to change this height to -12. It's downhill. So that's moved down. My cables don't fit. This bay, this island here, this is what I call island subassemblies. My island subassembly here, I'm going to say has come up 36 inches. Let's say 36 inches. So now I have this change, but my cables don't line up. So our main tool here is update cables and update all cables. So we want to update all cables, and it's going to go through, look at all my cables, and if you can see through the GoToMeeting, you'll see these cables changing. Now the cable file type is not file type. The cable file name is not changing. It's the same file name, but it's updating the cable. So now my cables all fit. They've changed to make it fit at each location. So that's one of the key changes there, the update all cables. And I think a lot of people will like that.
Steve, just a quick question. That is a true update to the cable and not a replace, right?
Correct. Correct. It will not replace the file. You can see all my cables here. I'm not adding files. I'm just changing them. So if I come in here, let's minimize that then. I'll save this so I got to identify that the cable's changed. We'll come into here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this guy, this file here, and if you look over here, you will see that file delete. When I delete that cable, we'll see that delete. And if you notice that, it changed in here. It was removed in here. So when you delete the cable, it deletes the file. When you update the cable, it updates the same file. So all you Vault users would like that. Go ahead.
So it does delete it out of Vault or just from your workspace?
Only from your workspace.
Okay.
But Vault should update on its own that that file has been deleted and not used.
Okay.
but I'm not the Vault expert, but with my experience.
Typically what would happen, Terry, is that if you've got that file in Vault and then you've checked it out, okay, and then you delete that from your workspace, and then you go check your job back in, you're going to see that that file's still checked out because it won't try to check it in because it doesn't exist anymore in your model. So it is a much easier way to be able to, determine, which one got deleted by that method.
Yeah, that sounds like a good thing.
Hey, Steve.
Sure.
If you, in our case, where our Vault, say our vaulted parts, the naming schema changes the names, it doesn't have the bare cable name anymore. If it's got a different name, will that still function?
That would be something you'd need to test.
Okay.
It would have to still link to it, so I'd have to test that. I wouldn't know I could test it outside of Vault, but I couldn't test it within Vault. So one item that a number of people came back to me on was the paired cable tool. If you see how I got a paired cable here, so if I were to have paired cable here, the paired cable tool is working correctly now. At one time it wasn't working so well. So if I put in a fitting in here, and let's put a fitting in here, and I can add my other fittings to that now. I'm going to add a single. And add a single here. I don't want that one. Sorry, guys. I want a 4-hole one. Don't like that one. So then I can put that guy back up in here as well. Oh, I have it there. Sorry. So we have our fittings placed.
So
We're going
what
to
if you
rotate
want?
them.
Okay. Okay, you're answering my question now.
So the paired cable tool was something I had several people asking me about. So I just want to make sure I show you guys that we do have it. Default cable size 400. I want something like 300. Well, let's go with 500. It might be too big to fit. I'll check my spacing. And save it. So if I'm running paired cable, I can come down here and pick fittings to add cable. I select the first fitting. I hit P for paired. And select the next pair and P for paired. Enter. And it's going to place my cable in there. So I just want to stress that that is in here. And I also did a demo video in the help files on that, and that should be above grade. Paired cable demo is in here now too. So we have that in here now as well. So that's recently new, the demo video, and that it's working. That I can confidently say it works every time. What they've also changed, and I think was changed a little bit a while ago. Is it in this one? Yeah. So if I have two fittings on the end of this guy here, and some of you might have seen this already, but at one time it did not do this, and I picked two fittings to add cable. It will now draw in a freeform arc to fit those two. So I'm able to do things like that now as well. I don't know if you've all seen this already, or is this old news or new news? I don't know.
Hey, Steve, before you close out of that, could you zoom in on the one connector? Is there a way that you see how the cable's coming out of the barrel of the connector there? Is there a way that we could potentially have Inventor at some point run like an active clash detection or analyze interference to determine if those things are happening? Like, is that a way that we could get it into the programming to like run the cables and then check for interference from the fittings and the cable you just ran, and then turn off active interference checking?
So you're talking about how this is lining up with the hole?
Right. Well, so the cable's not going directly into the barrel of the fitting, right? And so, you know, you could have somebody in there just placing fittings and placing cables and not really thinking about what they're doing. Would it be possible to, like, if you were to do your analyze interference tool and select your connector and your cable, it's going to say, hey, you have a total interference, you know, volume of this. Is there a way that we could have it spit that out to kind of as an error, in a sense, that, hey, you need to adjust, you know, the cable needs to be adjusted, or, you know, some way to kind of pop that up at the end of running cables?
The issue with that, it's going to show interference no matter what, because that cable is going to hit, like especially on a crimp size piece, but it's going to hit the fitting no matter what. Like even if it was run down probably perfectly, it probably will hit the fitting.
I mean, ideally, though, you still wouldn't want to see it coming out the side of it. It'd
Right,
be nice
exactly.
To go to have it just run straight out before it actually factors in any kind of a bend.
Well,
which is controlled by that guide point, right?
Yes, I was just going to bring that up. So if you were really concerned about that, you'd change your guide point, right? The guide point here is 2 inches out.
Yep.
Right.
And so that and that's good for maybe experienced users, right? But if you have a not so experienced user that's in there running it, that could be kind of a value add for the tool that says, hey, the tool's going to pop open an error if you have things like this. It's just a thought. I mean, just a thought.
So what determines the radius that the cable goes in there?
Ideally, it'd be the section modulus of the cable itself, like the physical characteristics of the cable, whether it's an ACSR or an AAC, the bend radius is going to be different, right?
I mean, is there something that actually controls what the minimum radius is?
Not in SDS.
Maybe that's some back-end programming that could be added into that. This physical properties based on, you know, the running of the cable based on physical properties.
Now,
and not so much the guide point.
No, a lot of that can be an enhancement type of thing, but
yeah.
A lot of times when you're looking at this, you're not looking at it as an ant would look at it. You're going to be looking at it as airplanes flying over, right? And that interference is going to affect your design checks. That interference is going to affect the actual visibility of
So if you go to generate drawings off of that, that's probably going to show up.
Depends how
definitely going to be extra line work that's going to get generated.
Yeah.
And the detail you're using in the scale.
Would it be possible to have the SDS tool calculate the bend of that cable after the 2 guide points instead of before it? Have it make it to where it does straight to the first guide point and then calculate that bend?
That would be ideal. Because in a real-world situation, it's going to run straight out that anyways and then take the bend. It's not going to actually break through the side of it.
Right, because otherwise that's still just a spline there, and you can drag out those points to get that initial part straighter, but since that's a spline, there's always going to be a little bit of a curvature there.
But if it's more within the barrel, that would be helpful, because then you wouldn't see it.
Right.
Yep, I agree.
I can tell you the longer the cable is that the nicer it fits into the fitting.
Right, yeah, and that's
So
what I was saying. You can drag that on out, but it doesn't matter how far you drag it out. There's always going to be a slight curvature to that piece since it's a spline.
So this is like a worst case because of the shortness of this cable. So if it was important to me right now that I had to show it that it was coming in, what I have is a what I call a cable loop tool. I can create this. I'm going to save it somewhere. I don't care where. I'll just save it here, part 5. So this is my cable loop tool. What it is if I go home, you can see it's just work features, work points in here. If I bring that guy in here, bring that in here. Let's say I bring it here. And this is pretty rough, what I'm doing here. It's not how it would, I'd be more exact when I usually do this. I'm going to ground it so it doesn't move. But when you're coming in with your cables, you can pick points to create the cable. So I can pick the point in here. Just got to find it. Why are my points not showing on this? It's showing. Pick points in here. I'm not able to find it.
You might have to zoom out a little bit.
And I can come in here and pick out here and then come in. Thanks, Terry. I should do it. And that line should be a lot cleaner, right? Coming in. So let's delete this guy. I didn't pick the right point. You can see that I was outside of my point.
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes back to my same initial question. If there's a way that when we run cable or we run bus, if it could essentially, we could somehow program this in there to analyze interference between the cable it just added and both of the fittings or any of the fittings that it just did, and then if there is interference, you could pop it up. It's just like a tool enhancement, I guess.
Yeah.
Just kind of a general question, because obviously in the real world, this is physically not going to happen, and the point of the whole 3D modeling is to get it as close to real world conditions as possible.
Yeah, I've been asking for that for years, actually.
Well, it seems like, I mean, I'm not a programmer, but it seems like it should be, I don't want to say easy, but not overly complicated, because you're giving it input, you're telling it knows what it created, and you're telling it the other portion that it would need to use the analyze interference tool, and that's already a native tool within Inventor. So it's really probably just some code in there to run and analyze interference, given input 1 and input 2, exactly like you would do it manually.
But or treat it as a straight line coming from, along the guide point, and then from the guide point to the next guide point should be a squat, and then straight line back in.
And that's much more a real-world situation.
Here's your drawing of some cables, and I don't really see that it being slightly misaligned is going to even show anywhere, right?
But if you were to raise that switch up 5 feet, then it may, you may get into seeing that. Or from a plan view, you're not going to see that interference here, but from a plan view, you may see it.
Or here's two views of running cables, right? Here's two views of running cables, and it's to me that this is acceptable. I don't see it.
Is that updated?
A concern.
Is that updated based on the model updates you made?
Model updates earlier, right? I'm looking at this file, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it looks there in the model.
So it looked like your drawing actually needed to be updated, though. Looked like you had to put updates on or something.
Yeah, they always need an update. All right. So in this case here, this is the right size cable for that fitting. The one I did may not have been the right size cable for that fitting, right? The one I showed you with the loop, but these definitely are. And you can see how it's not quite centered, but it's not going to change in here on what you're seeing. And especially if you're looking at a drawing from here, from this stage, you'd have to be quite a detail to bring it in that close.
I think there probably are a lot of folks that are going to use those details to bring it in that close, though.
And
Yes,
I
that
would
being
agree
off
with that.
center bugs the heck out of me. Anything off
Yeah.
center, even a
Yeah,
little
if we
bit.
could just run it straight to the guide point and then calculate bend from the guide point on, it would be a lot more symptomatic of what actually takes place in the field.
Or if the software's set up so that you can have a guide point 1 and a guide point 2, and then you could have guide point 1 right at the end of the barrel, and guide point 2 could be a distance out, so you could get kind of what you want it to look like. And most of the spline would be within the barrel, and you wouldn't see it, but it would definitely be a lot more on. Otherwise, every fitting that I've done, the guide point's been right at the end of the barrel to get rid of that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So is everyone aware of the address for support? So if you come into support here, let's get that. I'll show you on the screen. So this is the email for that support, SDS support@spatialbiz.com. So if you want these enhancements, that's the best way to communicate with the group, because it's going to go to many
It's not
people.
Steve Kaufman at spatialbiz.com.
This is for support, so that goes to Trevor, Dan, myself, Nate, and others.
I'm just messing with you, Steve.
Well, come in, yeah. I also have an auto delete in my emails as well. But that is the best way to come in and contact, because it does come to me, but it also goes to others, so others can see the issue. And I get a number of emails directly to me as well, and that's fine too. I don't mind that.
Jeremy, can you throw that email address on the meeting minutes? Jeremy Morden.
I'm on mute.
Or Josh.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Can you throw that on there?
What was that email address again?
SDS support, all one word, at spatialbiz.com. Is that all right, guys?
SDS support at spatialbiz.com.
Here. I'll put it in the chat line here. I placed it in chat, so. And that comes to all of us, so we all have a chance to read it. But again, I'll take emails directly to me as well. The other item that came up with the, there's two more things I want to show you, and then that's all I'm going to show you for today. I'm going to be doing a new video. I'll talk about that as well. But conduit 3D sketch. So let's look at the conduit. So I'm going to go into my underground assembly, and within my underground assembly, I have my conduit. I'm going to come into here and open this guy up. So what we have now is a new tool called 3D conduit. So this allows us to make a 3D sketch. So in this case, I've got this part, IPT, it's a phantom part, and it's created a sketch. And if you look at it, I have it, it's a 3D sketch. You can see it's out of plane, and it's out of plane, as well as I have it bending around here. So this is a this isn't a spline. This is done with curves. It won't do splines yet, and I hope Dan brings it over to splines. But here we are. We can run this 3D sketch. So this curve here, this bend, is on a compound angle because there's two angles it's hitting here, and it's a bend and it's not a elbow. So what we can do now is that I can run my conduit. I'll again check my conduit size, 4 inches rather. I think it's 2 inch that I'm running here, but I'm going to run my 2-inch conduit, come in here and pick my path, and it's going to place a conduit run along there. And you can see it's placed an elbow here where I had a right angle, which we would need. When it's coming up, it's on an angle as well. And I think this is what you would see in real world. A lot of times you're coming up because it's sloped underneath, if it is sloped underneath. So we got the 3D sketch here. So this was originally intended to drop conduit to go underneath roads or other conduit runs, or as I showed here, going around a pole box for some reason. So I was just trying to come up with an example for that.
Hey, Steve, does that show 10-foot sections of the conduit, or is it just one run?
It's it's multiple large runs. So it's going to get. We want to do is total of feet.
Right.
And then the last one I want to show you. This came out as well earlier, but I don't think a lot of people have really seen it. If I open up my trench assembly, I have a trench sketch here, simple L shape, and I can come into my trench settings. And you guys from Southern are familiar with it. But I can change my type of trench. I got different types of trench. I'm going to change it to a concast formed purchase T's, L's, and X's, or formed from straight sections, I should say. So I can add this in. And I grab my sketch. Sorry. Grab my sketch. It's going to prompt me for what family member of concast trenches I want. So now I got my family members. I can select my family member. Curtis, you're familiar with this. And away we go. So it's going to put in this family member of this size of trench. And there we go.
This work with mismatched sizes of the same vendor. So if you had like a 36-inch trench and then a 24-inch trench that came in at like a T, you could combine the two? Or
no, you would have to create a sketch and manually place your transition piece.
Okay.
I believe that's all I had to show you. That was about a page full of notes for me. We're always updating things as well, so I'll leave it at that. Jeremy, if you want to take it, or if you guys have questions.
Anybody have any questions on that?
That original element, the sketch element, you had gotten out of the sketch and there was just a line there that you had created that line in the sketch.
For the trench?
Yes. Well, it went for the conduit also, but
yeah. So the trench sketch is here. It's within the assembly.
yeah, I'm talking about the initial piece that the trench actually followed. You created that in a sketch and then exited out of the sketch, and that was in a. It was in the IPT.
It's in the IAM.
I'm not following how you created the line that the trench followed.
So this is the, oh man, let's get over to this. Okay. So with conduit as well as trenching, it follows a sketch. So I have in here a sketch. I've drawn that sketch on my XY plane. I come in here, I can edit sketch. And here's my sketch that I placed in here. Now it's located to where I need it. If you follow the substation modeling strategy, you'll see that I have a skeleton in here. And this gives me reference points where I can identify where my sketches are, right? So if I use the substation modeling strategy with skeletons, it makes things easier for conduit in trenching. And then from there we can select our sketch, select our size. If you look here, it's bringing in the eye part that it's all built from. That's what this is. This is just a little phantom thing that will disappear. And it will build it.
Okay.
So the trenching's done this. The conduit's done the same way. You create a sketch and you put it in.
Okay, I got you.
Hey Steve, this is Mark Thomas. Are there going to be other manufacturers specifically to the trench that you're going to provide?
Sorry, Mark, I may not have been clear. This is designed to be custom to what you need. So you would need to create your own trenches. So if you come into here, this is the content editor. This is what we use to edit the parts that that SDS uses.
Correct.
And what I have in here is this is where you bring them in. So you can create a new style. You can browse, grab that style, and create it in here.
Okay.
So what I have been working on, and I'm continually working on, if I come into the help again, and let's see, building content. Building content for this one. I think it's this guy here. Yeah. So if you look at this document that I've put on the website, Work Geometry for Automation, Building Content for SDS, depending which way you're focused on, it talks about what work geometry you need. And I'm working on a document. I don't know if this is the latest one. I'm working on one with the trenching. It's on the bottom. Okay. So I'm presently going to be updating this document with what you need for trenching, what pieces you need, and I'm working on that now. So that's not complete yet, but that will be out eventually, maybe for our next monthly meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for this?
I wonder if there could be an import-export function for like creation of the cable trenches. So if you wanted to like post it up, somebody could actually download it and use it for their own. Because you know it's work to create those, but it'd be great to be able to share them.
Right.
It'd even be better if we get the manufacturer to put a lot of this information into their models. That would be dreaming, though.
Well, there's a real problem with that, Josh, I find. I was working with CEFCOR in January around that. Is anybody aware that CEFCOR was looking at that?
Yes.
So what I found from CEFCOR, they gave me a part, and it was built from an assembly. It was a beautiful part, really pretty. And it was 3 megabytes or more. And what most of our fittings are about 150 kilobytes, maybe 300 kilobytes. 3 megabytes is just enormous. It was a lot of detail, a lot of fillets, a lot of extrusions or features. So I went back to her and I told CEFCOR we need to dumb it down. So that's the way I left it in January, and I think other people have been looking at that, and if they want to talk about that, they can. But I find everything I'm getting from vendors, the file is so large. I was working with another group. They brought in this beautiful building, a switchgear house or something, and it was, again, just gorgeous. Every nut and bolt and plate and hole was in there, and when we tried to get it smaller, we could not get it to a size that I would find acceptable. Because if you're building a 20,000 piece substation, that's just going to kill you.
Yep, very much so. Especially if you've ever gotten a transformer from any vendor. You want to talk about a heavy model.
So what I found is like I know some people have spent time taking a transformer or a circuit breaker from a vendor, Siemens, and dumbing it down and spending days doing that. But once you build it in Inventor the way you want it built, and once you have that, you can use that as a template for any future ones. So there's just minor changes to it. And if you look at if you take the course that we have on the website, and you can take it with me, I talk about shrink wrapping things and how a level of detail can be used in shrink wrap. So you can have different levels of detail in your shrink wrap of assemblies as well. And that really helps taking a templated assembly of a circuit breaker and bringing it in as a shrink wrap. But that circuit breaker, because of levels of detail, could be several different types of or variants of a family of circuit breakers. So there's options like that that can be done.
Thank you, even when you're not.
Okay, well, any more questions? All right, I'll take this back from you real quick. We are way over time, so thank you for all that could say. Hold on, Jim wanted to know trenches and trenches and covers come separately. Are they sample covers that can be fitted on? Are there sample covers that can be fitted on?
There's an option in SDS to put covers on or not, but I don't know what that's asking.
Yeah, it's hard to really pick that one. If you could throw that into an email, Jim, and send it to me and or Steve, and we'll converse about it and get you answered back best we can. If that works. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so like I said, we're way over time. Sorry about that, but that was some really cool, interesting stuff. So thank you, Steve, for going through all that with us. Nice to see the progression of these tools. I mean, I was in it way back at the beginning, so and to see them today compared to what they were back at the beginning, it's night and day. They're awesome and just getting better. So thank you for the demo. We did not get to any of the best practice documents. In fact, I think we lost a ton of our best practice people off of the line already. But we'll try to put that more towards the top for our next meeting for March. And I'll just open it up real quick to a quick roundtable. If anybody has anything they'd like to bring up or discuss, now would be the time.
Can I ask one question? Can I show a picture?
Yeah. Let's see. Send it back to you. There you go.
The shield wire issue. I had someone bring this up to me. Is that familiar to everyone here, and how common do you think something like that would be?
Well, I definitely like to look like that.
Yeah.
Is that fairly common?
I haven't actually seen people using those brackets, the connectors for them, but yeah.
So that's a shield. That's a shield wire. Yeah.
I've seen other brackets used to connect those to the tops of structures, but I haven't actually seen someone use those yet.
But yeah, I mean, that's using shield wire is common.
No, I know it's using shield wire, but so what? For us to make this work, I wouldn't have to have multiple points for my shield wire to select. I'd have to follow up a multiple points path.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's
I
all.
wonder if you can utilize what you have for some of your cable fittings and just add on to that so you could pass through. If you can make them work for both, then we'd only have to have one type of part with the same work points. My take on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And like I said, I'll get the recording up on the website either later on today or early tomorrow. So it'll be up on the YouTube site, and I will see you all in March. So thank you all, and if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out anytime. Steve and Terry, can we take a bio break before we kick off the next one?
Just stay on this one?
Yeah.
We stay on this one?
I sent out a new one so that we can get this one closed out and I can get the recording to start crunching the numbers.
All right.
Okay.
I'll close out.